telling you while I was out hunting, interesting, Ron later says I look much more intimidating with a gun. I'm more intimidating with the board, because on the board I get to show you the evidence. Make no mistake about it, guns are good, but the power of the word is even better. Anyway, Bokovoy's article. He says the Amos chapter 3 verse 13. Here's how it reads. It says, "Hear and witness against the house of Jacob, says my Lord Yahweh, the God of hosts." He says, and this is on page 38 of Bokovoy's article. Unlike Amos 6:14, which features the book's only other mention of this phrase, the Elohai Hasavot, the God of hosts, Amos 3:13 appears without any explicitly marked addressee summoned by the imperatives. Now what he says here, this is the phrase, Elohai Hasavot, and this is the God of hosts. This phrase appears once again in Amos, but it's involving Israel, the house of Israel. Whereas in chapter 3, we don't know who the intended audience is. It is not explicitly mentioned to us. Bokovoy claims it could be the Council of the Gods, and that's what I want to share with you, is his discovery, his proposition about this audience that is being addressed. And he says it is through the imperatives. Someone is being addressed to do certain things, to hear and to witness against the house of Jacob. Bokovoy says it's the Council of the Gods. The addressee in Amos 3:13, the subject of the masculine plural imperatives, seems to represent the same unspecified group that is commanded to proclaim, that is the hashamayim, and to speak, ve'imru, in Amos 3:9. Let me read Amos 3:9 to you. In fact, I believe he's got Amos 3:9. He does, Amos 3:9. Here's Amos 3:9. "Proclaim in the fortresses of Ashdod, and in the fortresses of the land of Egypt. Say, gather on the hills of Samaria, and witness the great outrages within her, and the oppression in her midst." So the imperatives, I want to show you these imperatives real quick. I'll be right back. He says within the chapter there are several imperatives given to an unspecified audience. The hashamayim, the ve'imru, the shamayu, and the ve'haidu. This is to hear, to witness, to testify, to speak against the house of Jacob. These imperatives are all in the plural. Every one of them are plural. They're not singular. What this means is it's speaking to a plurality of people. The audience. There is an audience. It's not just to one person like a specific prophet. It is to a group of people. That's the significance of these imperatives being in the plural. So Bokovoy is noting, he says, the idea of proclaiming and saying and witnessing against the house of Jacob, the Babayit HaYakov. He says when we understand this principle of the Council of the Gods, and we take that into consideration in Amos 3:13, he says, the fundamental administrative role fulfilled by the council in the ancient Near Eastern tradition, including the Hebrew Bible now, is, as these masculine plural imperatives in Amos 3 seem to present, an invocation that is spoken to the Elohai HaSavaot. These are what are being said for the Council of the Gods, the host, to do. This is how Bokovoy sets this up. It's very intriguing. These imperatives are spoken to the deities in the Council of the Gods, in other words, and it is directing the host of heaven to serve as the witnesses against what's going to happen to the house of Jacob. Bad things are happening to the house of Jacob because they're not following the Lord their God. So instead of doing by himself, the Lord is calling the council to witness his divine judgment against the house of Jacob. The Lord always has witnesses, in this case, the council. And I think it's very interesting because, and he notes, other interpreters of this verse have basically not understood that it could be spoken of to the council of the gods. And so they've said, well, God is speaking, he is declaring an imaginary audience to be the witness. And Bokovoy says, that doesn't make sense. An imaginary audience doesn't make sense because there really is a real group of deities that God can call upon to be a witness. And so Bokovoy contends the idea of an imaginary audience isn't compatible with the rest of the context of Amos, chapter 3. That's on page 39. Oh, and then he has, and I'm going to write this up too. This is very interesting because this is the evidence in the Hebrew Bible as who the Tzeba are in various other places in the Hebrew Bible besides just Amos chapter 3, which is really kind of nice. Yeah, this is too good to lose. Bokovoy notes that the Elohai Tzavaot as the hosts of heaven, or as the hosts of Yahweh, are mentioned numerous times in the Hebrew Bible, and every time in the Halot, the updated lexicon of the Hebrew Bible, it shows that they are either Yahweh's hosts or the hosts of the heavens. It's interesting that it pluralizes the heavens. The hashamayim has that plural ending. So Tzeba is the heavenly entourage of Yahweh. And in 1 Kings 22:19, it uses Tzeba as the host of the heavens, and it is plural in the translation. In 2 Chronicles 18:18, it's the Tzeba, the hosts of the heavens. And in Psalm 103:21, it is Tzeba'av, which is the hosts of Yahweh. And then in Psalm 148, verse 2, it's Tzeba'av, Yahweh's hosts. In every instance that Tzeba is used in the Hebrew Old Testament, it is the hosts of heaven, which are the council of the gods. So this is very interesting that it's not just in Amos chapter 3, verse 13, that this Elohai Tzavaot means the council of the gods, or the hosts of heaven. Very interesting here. These are the deities of the divine council. I'm on page 39. And then the apostrophe, the address that is absent, or the imaginary audience, Bokovoy rejects that. He says, nothing doing. This is the audience that is being asked to be the witness. This Tzeba'av, the Tzevaot. God has a real Tzeva that he could summon, and he does so. And he says, recognizing the inherent problem with interpreting this passage, the most immediate candidate for an audience for the plural imperatives in Amos 3, verse 9 and 13, this appears in Amos 3, 7. And I've already commented on this on the first video. Surely, or indeed, the Lord God does nothing unless he revealed his counsel to his servants the prophets. He says Amos 3:7 serves as a sieg to the summons given by the Elohai Hatzavaot in verses 9 and verse 13. And what these are doing is they are instructing the Sod, that is the council, in verse 7. They are instructing the council to proclaim, to speak, to hear, and to witness. These are all the plural imperatives given to the plural members of the council of the gods. And he says here too, in the footnote, the references of the designation of Sod for the council of the gods, for the council of the holy ones, is Psalm 89:8. And for the confidential discussion in the assembly of Yahweh, we have Jeremiah 23:18 through 22, and